Welcome to Slayerfest 98. I'm Kimberly Ann Southwick.
I'm May. There are no hobbits in Fillory Schults.
And I am Tariq Raouf.
And I'm Ian Carlos Crawford, and we are here today to talk Magicians Season 1, Episode 6, Impractical Applications. But before we get into the episode, Tariq, I'm so happy to have you as part of our team for Magicians. Do you want to give everyone your Magician's origin?
Hello. Yes, I started watching this show when it first started airing on Sci-Fi. It was one of the shows that I chose to try and cover for a small website that I wrote for at the time, hypeable.com. And it was like, it instantly became one of my favorite shows of all time, just like immediately. And like, it has this very special place in my heart. I just love this show very much. It's the first show I've ever gone to see the set for, to do set visits.
Cool.
And so I got to interview them a couple of years in a row because of Comic-Con. So like this show, I feel like it's probably one of those weird parasocial internet relationships where like, it's my best friend. And they are like, okay. But I love it. I love it. It's incredible. So I'm so happy you invited me to come talk about it.
I feel bad. I had a friend who actually was like, DM me and was like, wait, did I see that you were going to start covering the Magicians? Like, I would love to be part of it. And I was like, yeah. And he gave me kind of a similar speech, Tark, where he was like, I started watching it from the beginning, blah, blah. And he was like, but I'm moving, so I can't do it till the end of March. And I was like, I'm so sorry. We're probably going to be done by then. Like, I felt really bad.
It was season 1.
I mean,
right,
yeah.
And yeah, I mean, like, I remember when I watched it, I was just like, there's so many Buffy references that I literally Twitter searched like the showrunner's name and the word Buffy, every actor's name and the word Buffy. And that's how I found out Summer Bishel was like a Buffy fan too. And Sarah Gamble is a huge Buffy fan. Like she's the reason there's all those Buffy references. But I really do feel like I try to recommend the show to like everyone. Like, right, Kim? I feel like you and I have been on that mission for always like, just watch it. You'll love it. You'll love it. The first season I do think is a little slow. But I feel like, Tariq, what do you think? Because I do think season 1 is hard to sell, but now that I've watched all of it, I can go back and appreciate it like a little bit more.
Oh man, I fell in love with it from season 1 on like from the get-go. I think there's just something about the crazy dark but simultaneously ridiculous aspect of this show that like got me from like maybe not episode 1 but like definitely like starting like within like this episode and a couple episodes later. I'm just like, yeah, like sold, you know?
Yeah. I do think it's a very good first episode. I just recorded with a podcast called A Buffy Podcast. And of course, Magicians ended up coming up because when do I not bring up Magicians? And the one co-host really loved the show. And the other one, she was like, I couldn't make it past the first episode. I was like, what? But the first episode's good. And I feel like a lot of genre shows, you do have to like give them time. But I do feel like Magicians kind of knew what it was pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Like you said, Tariq, with the tone. Like I love that tone, that it like can be super serious. It can be grim. It can be like kind of horror-y. But then also like there's talking bunnies and like the animals are like, you know, I love doing all of those things at once because that's what I'm always looking for in a show. Like I want it to be able to make me cry, but also make me like laugh 2 beats later.
Is talking bunnies a spoiler technically?
Well, he does say talking animals in this episode, doesn't he?
You know what? That's true.
Also, and it's better than the spoiler I almost spoiler.
Oh no, Ian and I both almost said the same spoiler when we were. It was either episode 2 or episode 4, and we both at almost the same time said almost the same thing. It was very funny.
A lot of these I've had to be like mid-sentence. Wait, I cannot finish that sentence because it's a spoiler. All right. So this episode, we start with kind of where the last one left off, where like Fillory is real. So it's Penny and Katie don't quite land for me this early in the season. Because I'm immediately like, why the fuck aren't they listening to Quentin? This makes sense that they should listen to Quentin. Like, yeah, he's being a nerd, but like, that is a good like source of knowledge. That's like if like one of you was like, oh, Buffy's real. Well, Ian's being annoying, so I'm not going to listen to him tell me what I need to know if I ever go to Sunnydale. And like, well, you should. Like,
I mean,
younger than
That's true.
everyone than they're supposed to be. Like they're supposed to be like grad students, like that sort of level, which kind of makes no sense, but whatever. They just read a little like more tropey or younger to me.
I feel like they don't want to believe him because I mean, I think Penny especially doesn't want to have to rely on Quentin for anything. And he's like, okay, you know, he's pulling this out of his ass. Maybe it's a coincidence. I just think it's more about him not wanting to have to deal with it.
And it's like also like the super ridiculous nature of like this fictional world that everyone has grown up with that is like the equivalent of Harry Potter in their world. Like you're telling me, like I know magic exists, but you're telling me this famous book franchise has actually based off of real place? Like absolutely not. Like
Right.
there's just like that hesitation there.
I do
sense.
love Quentin's line where he says that's an acrobatic form of denial. That I just sometimes my notes are just like lines that really sing for me, and I feel like that was a really good line.
It was a really good line.
It is, yeah, and I do like even Katie's kind of like, well, maybe like Alice is like, actually, you should listen to him, and Katie's like, yeah, you should, but then what does he rant about? Is that when he talks about the?
He just gets all emotional about the books, like not like he's like they're supposed to be these like childhood blanket that he's held onto, right? And suddenly like they're fucked up. And
yeah,
you know, he's like the beast isn't in the books, and so like Penny's sort of like, okay, well then you can't help me,
right?
I think like and then his sort of emotional breakdown over the books being real and the beast, this like literal murderer, being in Fillory, I think really turns them away. He gets all emo, and they're like, okay, peace.
Yeah. So they kind of just like wait. Katie's like, yes, this is a waste of time. They leave because what does Q tell them? That like the beast is in the books, but the Chatwin kids were chased by like the Watcher woman.
Yeah.
She puts
clocks in trees. It's kind of surreal.
Yeah.
Or no, he says surrealist.
So then we jump to Julia, which we will just expedite discussing her plot line in this.
I wrote down Julia needs therapy. I probably said that last time too.
Like it's funny because the first time I watched this, I didn't like her. But now watching it, I'm just like, man, can she get a fucking break? Like, the answer is no.
You also felt like that just throughout the whole series, though, too, for reasons. That like she couldn't get a break, and I think that you're not liking her was compounded by that as we move forward. And maybe you grew a little more sympathetic to her, even though you didn't like her initially. I don't know. I'm trying not to talk spoilers. I guess that's not working.
It's so hard to talk about her arc without spoilers.
She's so violent and desperate, and like it just she I don't know. She's a rich bitch, right? Like it's hard to like them.
I feel like her arc like really goes against the grain from like a lot of other people's arcs. You know, like you see all these characters, especially right now with this episode, like you see all these characters really evolving and learning and growing with their magic, and then you see her like just being just stuck and like going the complete opposite way, not really learning, kind of learning, but like in the worst way possible.
Yes.
Well, there's such a big payoff, though. You know, like again, we can't say anything, but there's such a big payoff with all of that. But yeah, she does feel that's a great point. Like she's totally alone, and she's not able to deal with that because she's totally alone. She's not able to deal with it well / at all because of that.
Yeah, well, and I feel like what they're doing here with her, I feel like it was kind of there a little bit previously, but this episode is where it really feels like they're using magic as a drug metaphor. And I wrote, more effective than Buffy? Question mark. I kind of feel like it is because they're kind of showing that it can be used responsibly by a lot of people, and then there's other people that are so desperate for it that they will do anything.
Yeah, no, that's fair. And like I guess like I still, even though I don't know, it's just like I wish she wasn't so tortured this season.
Yeah.
You know, because like we're only on episode 6 and she's already met other witches, had the power taken away, got like the star tattoos, like it's like she's already had a terrible time and it's not getting better in this
So
episode.
she's not just isolating herself. She's being isolated
Yes.
by like literally everyone. Like she has no one.
Yeah.
And when
Yeah.
she does find someone, that's been taken away from her for reasons that are not her fault, aka Marina is a bitch.
And this episode we see not only is Marina not that nice, but she's like straight up like a fucking murderer. Like I kind of I remembered the mom because I feel like this was like the first like gory moment. And it like kind of is, right? I don't think we get like
I mean,
no.
that's the
The
eye
dean.
removal.
Yeah. The dean, but like this was just like it just was like a shocking scene when I watched it the first time.
I did not remember that this was gonna happen, and I also
Oh,
didn't remember that. Yeah, so this is only my second time through the show, but I watched the first season in like 2018, and then I didn't come back to the show until like 2020. So it's been so long since I've watched the first season that it's almost all new to me again, which is making it really fun.
Yeah.
This is like the first time, to your point, Ian, where like it really ups the stakes.
Yeah.
Right. Like I think specifically connecting Katie with this woman and like having this be Katie's mom, like you're like, oh, like this is like Katie's mom, and then like, oh, okay, well, Katie's mom is dead now, so
right.
Like, it's
oh, hey, so, Katie's mom. Oh, she did.
Yeah.
And
go ahead.
Kim, go ahead. No,
I was gonna say like Katie said she was when she was talking to Penny in a scene we haven't gotten to yet in that storyline, which was interesting. That like she's like, oh, my mom's dead, and then like later in the episode, foreshadowing, she isn't dead, but then is quickly.
But then is
so quickly.
And the thing I do like is that they make her mom like you said, May, they like really show you the addict, what are words, metaphor. And I feel like they do a good job with the mom. And this is what this show does really well, I think, in general, of like showing that she wasn't a good mom, but also like she does care about her daughter. And like she does, like, even though it's like not gonna work, she wants it to work with Julia. She does want to start this new like coven kind of. And like
it's a true depiction of addiction, really, is what it is. Like you have this woman who's like really wanting to do her best, but she's so addicted to this high of performing magic and the thing that she's lost that like it's a really good depiction of like addiction in this episode for sure.
Yeah, and like right, because I feel like a lesser written show would just have her be like this terrible mom who like does magic, and it's like very heavy-handed that it's drugs, and like, but they don't make her this like bad evil person. It's just like she has an addiction.
I wonder how y'all felt about when they're in like some diner, I guess, and she's like really talking up Julia's powers. And because I think Julia needs that in a way.
Yes.
But it's also bad for her in a way. And I wondered if we thought that was, not that we know the mom character very well, but I felt like it really validated Julia. And also like, I don't know nothing about magic and whether it can be like felt or something, but I'm like, I think she's right. Like, I think Julia is not just, someone who maybe shouldn't have gone to the dean and told them that Marina was the one that did it, but also like Marina's kind of scared of her because she does have this like thing, like she is like actually pretty magical. And I wondered if we thought that she was being honest, like really, or if she was just like trying to sell her plan onto her.
I think that is kind of an idealized plan. Think of it as like creating a safe using space for drug users. So it's somewhere that they can go without guilt, without shame, and without worrying about something bad happening. So if we're continuing the addiction metaphor, that's kind of how I see it. It's like a safe use center.
It feels like like Julia is a representation of what her daughter could have been if her daughter didn't actually get accepted to like Brakebills. Like she's like wanting to build this like house and build this family, and I think she saw Julia's power, and she also kind of got a sense of like, oh, like this is like what we can do together. Like here's someone that is willing to go through the same path that I'm going through without judging me for it necessarily. That's what I felt.
No,
Yeah.
I agree with you. I think it's like, because I think she does see her daughter in Julia, and like I do think that's like not uncommon, right? Where it's like someone could have been a fuck up parent, but then later on in life they are good to other people, and like they kind of like, I feel like she like tries to do her like momming with Julia because she wants to like you said, it's like Julia didn't get into Brakebills, her daughter did, so her daughter is like, I mean, it's still like a school where people are getting murdered, but it's like quote unquote a more safe, magical environment where like she can learn, and Julia's not in that environment. And I think that's why the mom, I mean, I think it can be both, right? I think the mom, that's true, but then I also think the mom is taking the opportunity to be like, wait, this can help me, we can do magic together. Like I think both things can be true about the mom.
Yeah.
What do you think? Yeah,
I agree.
Another thing
yeah,
I wondered about was how Julia's all of a sudden like writing her own spell.
I did wonder that too.
Because we haven't really, we've seen Alice do that, and so we haven't really seen any of the Hedges as far as I remember in my rewatch over the past week or so. I haven't really seen anyone else write their own spells. So I don't know. It struck me this time as something that, is this because she's actually so good, or are they just kind of getting away with one on the show?
I feel like it's because magic is so ingrained into her and into her character, like that she's just like really good with it. That's how I thought about it, because I noticed that too. I'm like you have this character that's like so strong, in so many different ways, and like I feel like, yeah, absolutely. If there was going to be anyone who doesn't actually get into Brakebills and has to like learn magic on her own, Julia would absolutely figure that out.
Yeah. Yeah. The show, I have noticed a little bit at the top here of the first season that like, well, I guess we're halfway through now, but like they do a little bit of skipping steps with like the magic stuff, but I am okay with that only because it's like, I don't know, that wouldn't, what am I going to watch with her learning how to write a spell? Like, because that's like how in episode 1, we had like no real notion that Julia, like, I don't know. Like, I feel like Quentin was like, oh, like, I love magic. It's my favorite thing. And she's like, oh, you need to grow up. Let it go. Why are you so obsessed with these books? And then suddenly she's also part of like it, the character we met at the beginning didn't feel like she would have been someone who was asked to take the test for Brakebills, because it seemed like she didn't have any interest in any of that. And then
Because
it's like,
I
wait,
don't think she believed in it the way Quentin wanted to believe in it, and ends up being correct. Like, yes, magic actually is real, and that's all he ever wanted. For her, the fillery books were something that she enjoyed as a kid, and her and Quentin had their own little adventures based on. I just don't think she needed it the same way he did.
That's fair, yeah.
Because we know that he has a history of mental illness, and he's obviously been dealing with shit since he was a kid, and these books were like his lifeline. So it makes sense that he would be so attached to the idea of magic being real, whereas Julia, who's getting ready to potentially go to, what was it, Yale or something, yeah, she's growing up, she's moving on, she doesn't need those books the same way he does. And I doubt she was ever investing that emotional weight in the idea of magic being anything but a fantasy.
This show is such a great allegory for Harry Potter kids growing up.
Oh my God.
It is such a great allegory for like seeing and loving and like needing a place of fiction so badly when you're growing up, only to realize that there's so much darkness behind it, especially with like the trans community and the queer community, and seeing what the author has like done with what the platform that she's created. Like it's a really good allegory for like believing and needing in a place to exist, but not wanting to accept the darkness of it.
Yeah. Wow. Ooh, that's
and it's wild because at that time I don't think any of that was like out there, right?
Nope.
I don't think we knew that about her.
It was just like
but it
every
aged
once in a
beautifully.
while. Every once in
Yeah.
a while, she would just like mention that one of her characters was gay or something, and we'd
Right.
be like, "Shut up, JK." And then she started being like a total biatch about, what do we call them? A turf, yeah.
Yeah.
And then unforgivable, right?
Yeah. And like it is funny how you're right, Tart. It's like retroactively it became even more relevant. Fuck. But yeah, so we get Julia and this woman who we don't know is Katie's mom yet. What she says, like they go to like a diner.
She doesn't even. Does she even say that her name is Hannah to Katie?
At some point, we get the name Hannah because I started instead of writing Hedge Hannah. So whenever that was in my notes.
Okay. I don't think we actually hear her tell Julia that's her name. I don't think we hear it until Katie refers to her mom as Hannah.
Maybe, yeah.
I did not write her name down at all in my notes. I just call her Katie's mom. So yeah. I do think it's like, I do like the way they tie it to Katie, where it's like the mom is just like, oh, let's go meet someone. I have a contact. And then it's Katie, who is also her daughter. And like, so there's a beat there that I do really love. And Katie's like, oh, the angriest bitch from the safe house. And Julia says, if you're trying to insult me, try again. Like, I love
it's so good.
That was a really good line.
We also, sorry, I have to mention this, but when they're casing out the safe house and they see how many new wards are on it, Julia's describing like the issue with getting in there, and Hannah's like, would it really be that bad? And Julia goes, you ever see the movie Scanners? And Hannah just goes, oh. And that fucking killed me. And then that basically is what happens to Hannah later. Her head doesn't explode,
and that's like,
but it's
God. You're right. I forgot about that. That's why she references that, and then that's kind of what happens. God.
Yeah. I don't know the reference, but good to know. I like to, as a note, how like a reference can just sort of like come and go in the show, and I forgive it very easily.
Yeah, it's
writing is so good.
Scanners is a David Cronenberg movie, and there's an infamous scene where a dude's head blows up. They reference it in Wayne's World too.
You've probably seen a GIF of it on like Twitter, Kim. It's like, right, May? Wouldn't you say like that's like the head exploding GIF, right?
Yeah, I feel like the two most common ones are that or the one from Tim and Eric, where it's Eric with like the universe behind him.
So they have their not so great diner meeting with Katie. I do really like, because again, this brought some nuance to the mom, how like she lets Katie take the spells, and Julia's like, we need them, and she's like, no, she needs them.
And finding out like what's really going on there and why Marina has her boot on Katie's throat for
like a little
better
more
expression.
We get like a big fast version of the story. I don't remember if we ever really find out anymore, but like it's enough that we're like, oh, okay, like we get this a little more than we did before.
Yeah,
and also it makes more sense that Katie is not just like mad at her mom for being at it. She's mad at her mom for like fucking up her life, moving forward, right? Like she's like tied to Marina forever, and then it's like, okay, well, like she has every right to be like fucking pissed forever.
And I mean, it weighs on Julia too. Like Julia's like, I don't want your help anymore, even though Hannah comes back when she's in the garage trying to do the magic, and I guess to like save her. And I wrote down the line, I want my daughter back.
I wrote that down too, and it just made me think of Arrested Development when Tom Jane is playing homeless dad, and he's like, I just want my kids back.
I'm sorry, that impression was so good. Can you do it again?
I just want my kids back.
That is good.
Thank you.
I love it.
But Kim, I think you were going to say something sincere about that.
Yes, I'm so sorry, Kim.
I'm sorry.
Okay, we need a little comic relief here. I was thinking about what was said earlier about Julia being like a replacement daughter for Hannah, and so it makes the line interesting because she's trying to get her to come do magic with her, but also she doesn't just want Katie back. She wants like a relationship with someone Katie's age-ish back too. So that line is doing like double duty.
Yeah. We then Katie takes a spell and leaves, and then Julia's like, yeah, I don't want to work with you.
Well, no, this is later when they are in the garage and Julie's doing the magic and she's trying to do it by herself, but Hannah's like, you literally can't. You need 10 hands. 10 hands.
Well, no, I think she leaves Julia leaves the diner saying she doesn't want to work with her.
Yeah.
Right.
And then she's doing the magic on her own in the garage in the next scene with them. Yeah.
Yeah, I think the next scene is Katie going to Marina.
Oh, I wasn't counting that as part of the Julia arc.
Okay.
Sorry, my bad.
Yeah. Just because that story's like with this story.
Yeah, I guess that's true.
I actually didn't remember. I'm like, is what I'm going to say spoilery? It is not. I did not remember Marina being this terrible. Like I thought of her more as like a Spike from Buffy in later seasons where it's like, kind of bad, but also like, but like she's really like brutal crime boss villain in this like beginning of the season.
Her like pixie manic dream girl appearance.
Yeah. Which this show is really good at doing, right? Like, oh, this character doesn't act the way you would assume they would in a TV show for the character that looks like that. So yeah, we then see, like you said, Kim, Julia working on the spell. Katie's mom is like, you were about to blow yourself up. You need 10 extra fingers. And Katie's mom, I wrote down this line. She says, interesting how you can't look at me. Know why? I look too familiar.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like what you all were saying about the addiction metaphor. It's like game recognizes game. Like the mom's not... She's just like, but no, right? Like she's like,
I don't know if I would have phrased it quite.
I don't know if game is the appropriate,
like she recognizes what she's doing, and she's like, I know what this is. Like you're not gonna fool me. Like I went through this shit, and so I just feel like I don't know. It's magic addiction. I feel like the metaphors once you get into like they do the metaphor well here, but magic still is something that helps people, not something that like no one would ever say. You need to do drugs so you can save those people's lives. Like
I mean, maybe.
That's what, like with metaphors, it always gets a little like.
I mean, the Witcher takes drugs to save people's lives sometimes. Like.
But that's not real life.
Yeah. Okay.
Neither is this.
Because Adam Sass used to always say this about the metaphors in True Blood, how like. It didn't work because it's like, ooh, the vampires are like discriminated against, but also they are murdering people. So like, it's like they are all portrayed as like ruthless murderers. So like the metaphor kind of loses some weight there, where it's like, oh, but they're being discriminated against. It's like, no, but we've seen every single one of them do a murder. Like
hot murderers.
Right, hot. They're all hot. Yes.
Oh yeah. Oh my god, Ian, can we please cover True Blood someday? Just the first 2 seasons.
He's never seen it. He's never seen it.
I watched season 1. Okay.
It's the same thing as Magicians. Pam and Eric as characters. And we don't get that until a couple seasons later, and then they finally like shift the focus away from whatever her name is, the main character. We're ditch a lot tonight. I don't know what's going on here. I apologize.
You are, Kim. But no, and then I watched like a random few episodes here and there. Like I watched the like dream sex scene between Ryan Quantine and the hot Skarsgård. I forget what
Alexander.
Yeah,
Alexander Skarsgård.
Yeah, I watched that episode.
Wait,
I saw that.
To be fair, Alexander and Bill are both hot. Alexander's just hotter.
Yeah, I just meant the hot Skarsgård that's in this. Like I meant, I didn't mean it as like no one else is hot. I meant like, oh, like he's the hot Skarsgård.
There's a gratuitous sex scene in like every episode.
Yeah.
Yep. It's pretty great.
And by gratuitous, I mean wonderful.
I watched that first episode with my mom, and but so Julia. Katie's mom is kind of like, we got to do this together, blah, 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 blah. And so like a thing. So I have now watched this episode like 3 times because I did a marathon of the season. And then I watched this for the original recording date. And then I watched it again for this recording date. I still, maybe it's my ADD brain, which it probably is. what are they stealing the cabinet? Like, I know it's like, oh, there's spells in there, but is it like that's just it?
That's just it.
Okay.
It's not all of the spells that Marina has amassed, but it's a lot of them that even if they were still active hedge witches, they wouldn't just have free access to. Marina would still have to grant them permission anytime they wanted to learn something new. So they're essentially stealing knowledge.
Okay. So it's just like general spells. It's not like there was like one spell in particular they needed.
I don't think there's one spell, but I think the big point is that Julia helped her steal her Brakebills knowledge. Right? So she's got like spells from that now that are like an education, like an education's worth of spells. I don't know why they'd be written down and put in the filing cabinets if they're just memories, but at least who knows. But I think that's the big thing. They think some of those might be in there too.
Okay.
Brakebills knowledge, which
that's what I was. My third watch of it, I was like, wait, but what is special about these ones? I think what threw me off is, like you said, Kim, we see that Julia was already writing spells, so it's like, all right, what the hell does she need? If she could do it already, like, we're good. But I guess it's like she's not that good at writing them.
Well, it's like once you have more knowledge and information, then you get better at all the rest of the things.
Right, because essentially it's basically like chemistry. If you know what happens when things combine, you can use parts and pieces of them. But if you don't have all of the parts, you can't write the same spells effectively.
Okay, that's fair. We do see that it is working, right? And then we quickly see that Marina and her folks run up to the cabinet, and like Marina is so like, she's just like, no, wait. And it's like, it's so brutal. They open the cabinet and it just says nice try, and
with
Katie's
a little
mom
heart.
just like, yeah, just Katie's mom just like fucking bursts into blood, like leaking everywhere. It's pretty like, I mean, May, we've talked about this in a couple of recordings that like this show does do horror pretty well.
Yeah.
Which Kim and I talked to Lev Grossman for our episode 0, and he even said, right, Kim, he was like, they did horror really well. Like they integrated it into the show. And he like, what did he say, Kim? Was it like they were better at doing horror than I was, or they just liked it more, or something like that?
Well, he was talking about how the moths weren't his idea, but they're like how they're canon. We were like, yeah, like he's like, that's better than what I could have thought of. But you know, you need some sort of like horror background knowledge to come up with something like that, or have something like that, do something like that in a way that it works.
Yeah,
well, to be honest,
kind of like making the spells.
The show in general is way better than the books in so many different ways, and I think the horror aspect adds on to that and like ages it up a bit to a point where it's like, like
you can do more with television, so it makes sense for television, and that's what makes the shows like really fucking good.
Yeah, I also like really enjoyed Marina's anger when like the lockers were disappearing. Like that was just so well done. The way that her entire face was just like, like you can see that is the face that caused her to blow up Katie's mom. Like,
yes. And like a thing that Stella does really well as Julia is the like Julia's scream is really good.
Oh yeah.
Right? Like it's like really good horror scream, because it's like
you really believe she's in pain and or terror anytime she does it. It's so visceral.
Yeah, because it like squeaks a little bit, so it just feels like it's like coming, like literally coming out of her body, like she can't help the scream, and it makes like a weird noise or whatever. And like, yeah, I think she does that. Like she would be great in a horror movie. I mean, I think this whole cast probably would be really great in a horror movie. Margot for Final Girl forever. But even as the mom's like dying, she's just like, run, Marina's coming, as like blood's pouring out of her. And it's so brutal to watch. And it's weird that like Julia has Katie's mom's final scene. Like it's them together, not Katie, but like you also are like thinking about Katie, right? Where it's like, oh fuck, that's her mom. Like
now her mom's really dead.
Yeah. And I do like the bit of Julia calling 911, but then kind of, I get it, right? Because what are they going to do with like a magical death? Like probably blame her, right?
Well,
like
also the mom is clearly dead. Like
Right.
she makes the phone call before she is, and then the Hannah's like clearly dead, and then it's kind of like no point.
Yeah, it's like, how is she going to explain this? How is she going to explain what she's doing there? Like, they're not going to believe her if she says, oh, her entire skull just started spouting blood.
Right. That happens sometimes. Like, yeah, she would go to jail.
Right.
We don't have a from Angel we can call.
Right, yeah. And like I like that bit of like she does call 911, but then she does realize that like it's pointless, so she just hangs up and runs.
Yeah.
Which again, pretty like very horror movie feeling. But yeah, so then we get the cut to Katie and Penny being Katie and Penny. We cut to Quentin, and he hears a knocking, and then
so we're back to the beginning.
Yeah,
after the whole Julia thing. Okay, got it.
I love that Katie knows how to do tattoos, because of course she does. And I love that ink magic is a thing. It makes so much sense within this world, and it's so fucking cool. And I like to think that that's part of why I'm a witch.
Kim, I wish our tattoos came with the magic. We got the key on us.
Yeah. When Quentin hears the knocking and he says, is someone being creepy on purpose? Like the tone of voice that he uses.
So funny.
It's so good. It's so good.
He's just so like annoyed.
Yeah.
Then we get Margot jumping out in a mask. She's yelling about sacrificing the virgin. And I do like him being like, oh, I'm not a virgin. And she's like, life is full of surprises. She's such a dickhead. I love it.
I know. There were actually a lot of moments, especially in episode 5, but also in this one, that kind of support what I said on a previous episode about excuse me, about Margot possibly being like high functioning autism, similarly to how I feel about Cordelia. And it was just like, I love watching it through that lens and being like, yep, that makes sense. That makes sense. And it makes me love her even more.
They bring him into like a hazing ritual of sorts. Elliot greets the crowd, which is like the Netflix image they use all the time, is like Elliot standing there in the robe. I'm curious what all of you thought about. I feel like knowing Elliot and Margot, where they end up, no spoilers, where they end up and where like the character, it just felt like even season 2, Margot and Elliot would think a hazing ritual is fucking dumb. Like I kept thinking that.
No.
I disagree.
No, because to them it's a party.
They get to play. They're like dressing up, and it's not just hazing. It's like, this is dead serious. You get kicked out of Brakebills if you don't pass this, and they get to though they're not in control, like they are, and they get to like play in control, and they love that.
I think the power, like the power is like really fun for them. They're just like they're eating it up. Like they love the fact that they get to sit in the woods and have picnic like while watching their like these young little idiots try to like get things, like this is like 100% up their alley.
They're always forcing people to get drunk and then like do wild things. It's just like now it's serious too.
I don't know. I guess I feel like I think that they would like the ritual of it all. They'd be like, ugh. But I guess I can see that. So we get.
Sorry to like hate on your.
No. They like split them into groups. They have till morning to solve this impossible, like whatever. And it's Quentin and Penny and this like third person
who is very mean to Quentin immediately, and I like
a lot of people at the school are.
I know, and I just want to defend my little Q and punch that guy in the taint.
But also it's funny to me, I guess, that Penny's like, I like this guy,
Right, but then a few minutes later he starts to actually like Quentin.
Yeah.
When Quentin suggests cheating and he has a plan, and Penny has that like really admiring little smirk, it's so cute. Like I literally wrote down, Penny starting to like Quentin is so cute.
Yeah, like seeing Quentin for someone who's willing to break the rules. Like,
yeah,
I like that a lot.
I do like seeing them. I feel like this is kind of when they start to become like friends. I don't even know if we'd use it, right? Like
frenemies.
They kind of become more of a clique.
Yeah.
And we see that happening, even though they might not like each other yet. Like they're obviously going to keep being grouped together, regardless of if they like it or not.
Yeah.
One thing I noticed during this scene was really funny when they end up succeeding on the cheating. The guy disappears, but like the poor guy probably, like, if he remembers anything, the last thing he heard is like, "Oh yeah, but you cheated." So he thinks he probably got kicked out because they cheated. he doesn't get a chance to realize that that's what made them.
I didn't even think about that.
Yeah. I also wrote down Quentin sitting on a chair like that when Elliot is evaluating them is peak bisexual.
I was gonna say I always sit like that, but I have been told by a few bi friends that I have bi vibes.
I thought you were
BBE, big bi energy.
Yeah, you got that BBE.
But I
like when they say, "Who knows how to read an hourglass?" Like, I'm like, how much time do we have left? It's like, we don't know. Like, nobody knows.
I mean, this is like I feel like 6th episode in a row where there's a Star Trek reference when he says like, this is the Obikashi Maru. Like, I also love that reference because it's like, that's a specific, right? You know what I mean? It's not like a general like, oh, the Enterprise. It's like very specific.
Right. Yeah, well, and the Kobayashi Maru was mentioned a couple times. I think it was mentioned once on original series and then once or twice in the original series movies. Yeah. But we never actually saw what it was until J.J. Abrams' Star Trek 2009.
Wait, no, didn't we see it in the beginning of, is it Wrath of Khan? When the whole ship's like blowing up around him and then they all trying to stand up?
I can ask my mom.
I don't.
Which is the one with Kirstie Alley?
Lev would know. Lev is like that's Star 3. Trek fan, so we should probably just ask him.
Yeah, Lev did say he's a huge Star Trek fan, so that's why it's referenced so much.
That's Star Trek 3, The Search for Spock.
Okay. So I think it's the one with Kirstie Alley, I think.
Okay. I did not remember that, but I haven't watched that one as much because it's definitely one of the weaker of the movies.
I don't think I can spell Kobayashi Maru for my mom.
I know how to spell it if you want me to spell it.
I spelled it like Obi-Wan and then just put Kosh Maru. So they cheat off Alice too, which is important, right? Because she's the one that like, she doesn't need to cheat. She's like that good, which I do like how consistent we are with Alice with that. It's like, she's the best magician of at least the group we know, but right. But one would assume probably maybe even like in the class, right? Like not just in like that little group.
I feel like Alice and Julia are on level playing fields in terms of their natural aptitude for magic. The difference is that Alice actually has access to the knowledge that Julia needs in order to do the magic that's in her.
And has, even though her parents didn't teach her anything, still grew up in a magical household where there was probably books about magic, etc.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I would love to see Julia like thrive at Brakebills because I feel like like her and Alice would really like do really well.
So we what is it then? Like
they pass, and then Q's like in his room, and Margot comes in quoting Fillory, which is Fillory and Forever, which is like wonderful. And we learned she was like a big fan of the books growing up, and even though Q's like totally like 100% emo right now, him being surprised at her and her I guess giving him actually good advice in this one, right? So like celebrate the world you're in isn't bad advice.
Yeah, and it's such a nice bonding moment for them that of course is punctuated by Quentin collapsing and saying, "Margot, did you roofie me?"
I also like this is like again, very Cordelia too, where it's like, he's talking about like his feelings. And like you said, Kim, he's being super emo. And he's like, if you've ever wanted something so bad, then felt stupid about it. And she's like, every guy I slept with. Like, I love that she can still relate, but is like talking about like her sex life rather than like feelings and emotions and like all that like bullshit.
And it's funny that she says the thing that Quentin said to Penny and Katie that made Penny be like, whatever, forget about it. Where he's saying the beast was there. And she's like, that's totally not consistent with the books. But like, it's just different coming from her.
Yeah, it really is, because you don't... I feel like, I mean, we know Margot because we've watched the whole series, but especially at this point, you don't know that much about Margot, and that does feel like surprising, right? It's like, you know, I mean, we're all kind of nerds here. If like I encounter someone who is like, looks like a supermodel and then is also quoting X-Men at me, I'll be like, oh, fuck, like, that's cool. Like, so I like that it kind of starts to bring more nuance to her character. I also kind of like the way she's like, no way, Hillary's real? Okay. Like, she doesn't really like... There's not like a big shocking moment. She's just like, all right.
Right. It doesn't really throw her. She's just kind of like, yeah, that checks out. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Do we know if Margot comes from a family, like a magical family? Is she like, is Alice the only person in the core group to come from a magical family?
I believe so.
I think so.
That we know of, at least. I don't remember knowing like anything about Elliot or Margot's families.
Yeah. Yeah. I think they like in passing mention stuff, but like that's about it.
The thing to pay attention
it makes
to on our rewatch.
It's really cool. It's really cool to see the way that like to have at least one of Quentin's friends be like, oh yeah, cool. Like, you know, like, like that, like that's what it made me think that, like, I was like, oh, maybe she comes from a family that Alice would have been like, because I feel like if Alice hears that information, she'd be like, oh yeah, that tracks too. Like, you know, like,
yeah, that's true. Yeah. And like, I do also like that her advice is like, unless you're planning to take a trip there, you're torturing yourself over a fairy tale. She's not like undercutting the knowledge. And that's not incorrect, right? Like, well, if you're not going there, there's nothing you can do about it. Like,
were you planning to sit there, and her delivery, all of that, it's perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's trying to keep him from catastrophizing about something that he has absolutely no control over.
Which, again, me relating to Quentin way too much.
Right?
Oh
God. No, honestly, I know they never give Quentin a diagnosis on the show, but watching it again this time, I'm like, I think Quentin and I both have BPD.
See, I feel like he just needs to smoke some weed. Like, I feel like...
Yeah, but I smoke plenty of weed.
Because I just... Kim and Zach and my other best friend Kevin and Kirsten can all attest to this is exactly what I do. Like, I'm always like, the worst thing that can happen is going to happen to me and only to me. And it's going to happen the moment I do this one thing that I want to do. And like, yeah, I don't know. My first watch, I mean, I've watched this now 3 times, but the first time when he was like, Margot, did you roofie me? I got really upset because I thought this was a scene that we get later in the season. And I was like, why don't I remember that? I don't oh, okay. She just roofied him to put him in a contest. Okay.
Oh, that would have been awful.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
I like, really got upset when I was like,
I probably loved this show.
Yeah. I was like,
why did we love this?
But it's like, oh no, she just did it to put him in a contest. That's okay. Like, we forgive that.
All your listeners who haven't watched be like, what are you talking about?
What are you talking about? So he wakes up in the woods because it's part of the test. I also put in my notes, it does feel like a lot of them pass this test. Kim?
Yes.
I just love this scene. That's all. I like the outdoors and the indoors and the outdoors. I don't have an answer to your.
Yeah, I love Margot saying when Penny is like, "Oh fuck this," Margot goes, "Ooh, I see gay porn in your future," and I just wrote down, Penny should do gay porn, like
that part,
please.
Yeah.
Lev Grossman told us that the only reason he like didn't like that they cast Arjun as Penny was because he was so hot and he always envisioned Penny as not being attractive in the books.
Yeah, but I mean, with how much of a dick Penny is a lot of the time, if he wasn't hot, you'd be so much more mad at him, or at least I would.
Yeah, we're all pretty like surface level with that. So yeah, that is true.
Later on when you see Penny naked and like you get like because you see Penny and Katie naked, and I look at Penny and I go, he should do gay porn.
Yes, I would not be upset at that.
Sorry, Arjun.
I did Google it. I know. I'm like, oh god, he did a reading with us. Am I allowed to say this about it? Can someone? All three of you are smart. I am flat-brained. When she says I want to get my Catherine the Great on, Google it. I Googled it and I did not know what she was talking about.
I know.
Okay, I'll let you go.
Oh. I only know this because I know this from the show The Great on Hulu about Catherine the Great, starring Dakota Fanning. Right? I always get Dakota Fanning and Dakota Johnson mixed up.
What about Elle Fanning?
Is it Webb or is it not?
No, but basically, during Catherine the Great's ruling, like someone made up a rumor that she fucked a horse.
No.
Like, and it's like
they made up a rumor that she died while attempting to fuck a horse.
God.
Yep. Yeah. Like
that's
that.
Worse.
For a long time, that was listed as her cause of death because it just caught on as official. But there's no proof that that's how she died.
So we also go back to that later in the series. That's like a reference. Anyway, also Margot looks fantastic. Kim, I need to hear you talk about this outfit because Kim, I know you love this outfit. I just know. Without you telling me, I know.
Spoiler alert for later on in the show. Yeah, absolutely. Oh my god. The necklaces and the dress and the mismatching. Once upon a time, Ian was playing The Sims and he was like, you look exactly like you, but I just can't get the outfit right. And I was like, okay, choose a shirt you like. He's like, and then I choose the pants and it doesn't match. I'm like, no, choose one that just doesn't match. And that's what he did. And then he was like, oh no, yeah, that's totally you. So that's what's going on here. Like she's wearing all these elements that like shouldn't work together, but they just do because she's just fabulous. And the little hooks like that make it look like her dress is like corsety. I don't remember if it's actually a corset and a skirt or if it's like a dress or whatever.
And her makeup.
Her makeup is incredible.
The thing she's wearing over top of it, it's all perfect.
Yeah. And like the thing I do like too is that like Margot the character is having fun. Like she's like reveling in all of this shit and like she looks like a fucking queen. She's acting like one. Like I just
perfect.
I
also
there's so much.
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say there's so much good stuff that happens in this little section of the episode.
Yes.
Okay, wait. So hands up. I don't love this. I'd never love a contest. I think it's because I hate contests in general. But like, I'm just like, I don't know. Like I'm always like, what are the stakes here? No one's in danger. Like it's a fucking contest. So I rarely ever like a contest plot. Like Harry Potter 4. Which one is 4? Goblet of Fire? Is that Goblet of Fire? Yeah. Did you put your name in the goblet? Yeah, of course it is.
I'm not going to do my impression of that because it's very loud.
When I read that, I read that book because I thought it was so fucking boring. Like I was like, I don't care.
That's so funny because that's a lot of people's favorite book.
I know. And I do love that ending of that book, but like, oh boy, most of that book, I hate it because I don't care. I'm like, what do I care about this stupid contest that someone's going to win and like, it doesn't matter. Like,
this is how I feel about action scenes.
Yes.
I'm just like, okay, whatever. Like, let's get to the end where like somebody has like won this action scene. I don't care who's punching whom.
Yeah, like I feel like I never actually have to watch an action scene because like it doesn't matter at the end. Just show me who wins, like because you're just doing this for all the like the fun little straight men that like boom booms. Like just stop.
So that's fascinating because I like the
contest. I like a well choreographed action scene.
Yeah.
I like it when there's like balletic fighting and swords and stuff like that. But if it's just like shaky cam guns and whatever, I'm like,
and cars and stuff.
I can't.
I like when they shoot the car into the helicopter. That was cool. That thing on the bus in one of the Marvel movies. There's one where like a bus breaks in half. That was
Doctor.
Yeah.
That's Shang-Chi.
Isn't it Shang-Chi? Is he like the guy with the like?
Oh, I don't know.
I haven't on his arm.
I think it's Shang-Chi. Yeah.
Oh,
anyway,
yeah, they have that like fight scene.
It has to be something ridiculous, and then I'm into it. Otherwise, I'm like boring.
To answer your question, and I agree. I think the contest was just a little too muggly. You know, like it just like it wasn't magical enough. You know, like
Yeah.
it was like, oh, okay, you have to just sit and talk to each other. Okay, like where does the test of magic come in? You know,
I cried. I almost cried.
I think
they had to all work together, and Penny like this little speech. I loved it, and they figure it out. Yeah. And the point is that everybody figures it out. You can't go at it alone. You can't be like Julia.
Right. I think the whole thing is
or Julia dies. Sorry.
Right. No, that's fine. We're making the same point anyway. I think it's showing it in contrast to what Julia's doing. Julia's trying to do everything herself, and all of our main folks are looking at, oh, we need to collaborate on things. We need to talk to each other. We need to rely on each other because we can't always just do things on our own. I think all of this is to get them in touch with the more human side of magic rather than the like ethereal side of it.
And it is high stakes. They get kicked out of Brakebills and they get their memories wiped and then they don't have any magic anymore.
But I thought the point at the end was that Margot and Elliot made it up. I thought that's what they're like, didn't really matter. Like, I thought that was the point at the end, that no one did get kicked out.
Wait, what? I don't remember hearing them say it didn't matter. But then the first guy wouldn't have disappeared.
Yeah.
Because he didn't like pass in the contest, so he didn't move on to like the next level is what I thought it was. Like he just got kicked out of the room because he didn't get.
No, they got kicked out of Brakebills. The teachers are watching from afar.
Because Margot says something at the end. I don't know if I wrote it down. She said something that made me think like they were just doing hazing.
Nope.
What does she say? Because she's like, God, Margot, there was something she says that made me think that like this was just like a hazing ritual that the older kids did, but actually didn't matter. But I've watched this 3 times, but I believe all of you over me. So,
but I feel like it's totally possible that they might have made up the one to go get the animals and stuff, but the final one and the first one are like the ones that are part of it, and then they just decided, you know what, let's put them in the ones and make them go do whatever we want. Like,
oh my God, I love it. I love it when they're like, you got to blow this horse. And then later Margot is like, did you see the look on Quentin's face? Or wait, I can't remember if it's Margot or Elliot, but they're like, it's like he's saying, fine, but I'm not going first.
Yeah.
That's Elliot says that, yeah.
Into that scene where because you believe them at first. They're like,
oh absolutely.
Firewood and grill the salmon, and then they say the blow in the, because I'm like, oh God, what about this horse? And then it's just it's brilliant. I have to go let my dog.
They look at the horse with terror in their eyes. They're like,
like, how am I gonna fit that in me?
Ask a gay.
So we get the reveal that they've been right outside it is the physical kids' cottage that they're right outside of, right?
Yeah,
I think. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And Margot and Elliot are having a good time
eating the cucumber sandwiches.
Oh, but the thing I did want to point out, I do like when Quentin's like, I went to junior cowboy camp. I hated junior cowboy camp later. Like,
so good. Yeah, he shows up and she's like, "Why are you bleeding?" And he goes, "I hated junior cowboy camp."
Yeah.
I also like that they're all surprised at each other's things that they are good at. Mm-hmm. Like I don't know. This is like, what do we call it? The ensemble cast, like. Group building exercise that we don't, we don't normally get such an obvious group building exercise. Maybe that's why you don't like it, Ian. but I don't know, they're like finally all like working together a little bit, and I just love that, and I teared up like I said.
Well, and I like that Penny is the one who not only figures it out, but is like, yeah, we're gonna work together. He doesn't push against it. He doesn't even make a glib remark. He doesn't make fun of anyone for their skills. You know what I mean? It's just like, we're really seeing the softer side of Penny come out in this episode, especially like when Katie is running to try to catch the fucking pheasant with the fishing net, and Penny is like trying to get her to stop and talk to him, and she like whams him right in the nose, and he does not even get a little upset with her. He's just like, hey, I want you to talk to me and tell me what's going on. He's really just trying to be there for her. And then that being followed up by him getting the group together and being like, hey, this is how we solve this. It's really showing that he's not just an asshole. He really is a pretty good person. He just acts out a lot.
And hates
Yes.
Yeah, you can't say that. Yeah. So they tell them what their next what do they say? It's like
you have to like say your transcendent truth or utmost truth or something, and then you'll transcend.
Because I still don't quite get, I don't know. I mean, maybe because I don't remember the next episode, but I still didn't quite get like the point.
The point is, again, human connection. It's getting them in touch with the more human side of their magic and understanding how important it is to be open and communicative with the people with whom you are doing magic. Because if you're hiding something from someone, remember, we learned in the previous episode, this magic is fueled by emotion, and often very negative emotion. And if you don't channel that right, it overloads. If you don't channel that right, something's going to get fucked up. You're going to hurt people. And that's how people are when we're carrying burdens around. If we don't open up to the people around us, if we don't share that, then our anger comes out sideways at them rather than being directed in a healthy way, i.e., into magic.
And not even just anger, but like any negative emotion. Yeah. I feel like you're therapizing us right now. And I'm like,
I literally was thinking the same thing. I was like, there was just something about the way that you just spoke all of those words that I was like, oh my God.
I'm not even paying for this.
So full disclosure, my BFF Erica is a clinical psychologist. At one point when we were dating, one of my other partners she's an ex now, but she's a therapist, a sex therapist, and a death doula. At one point, very briefly in 2021, I was talking to and or actively dating 5 different women who were all therapists. Okay, and I've done a lot of therapy. I've been in several DBT programs. I'm very well versed in a lot of things.
Like, not only did you speak truth, you spoke truth in such a calm and beautiful way. I was like, no, that tracks. Absolutely. Yeah.
I was like thinking about myself, but also like absolutely like that's what's going on in this moment with these characters. The other important thing I would add, which is less beautiful, is that this is like pagan, like original magic that they're doing too. There's something like deep about it that they mention, that like Alice maybe mentions when she's looking it up in the book. So just that sense of like ritual and like roots and beginnings, I think like is important here, especially in an episode where we get Julia just like writing off a new spell. So like this is something where there's like a very deep history to it that has these interesting rituals attached to it that maybe enhance what they're doing, right? Like you can write a spell on a piece of paper and then do the spell, but also like there's a history here and things like that you might not think of, is great, like that, like face paint and the getting naked and stuff that can add to a spell, I guess.
I'm gonna be the grump. I thought it was so boring. Like even you describing it, I'm like, yeah, that's what it is, I guess. Like, like I don't know. It just like doesn't land. A contest never land unless it's like Seinfeld and it's a joke about masturbation. Like I'm like a contest. Ugh.
So like, are you saying that you can have like a very deep, meaningful like thing that you need to do, but then as soon as someone says it's a contest, you're just like, eh.
I love a contest.
They're like, I don't do well in them. I once dated a guy who is terrible and sucks. And another guy that was a friend of mine had a crush on him, and we started hooking up. And then it was weird with
gay?
Right? I know, a gay complicated relationship. Who knew? And like that friend got really upset, and I literally said to both of them, "I'm good. Like I'm taking myself out of this. I do not do a contest. I do not compete." Granted, then I won, but that was not my like intention.
Is this why you always cheated at Uno? Because you just hated it?
I don't like contests unless I win.
Well, I like winning. Of course I do. I'm not an animal.
Do you consider board games and games contests? Do you not enjoy those?
I do enjoy. I don't mind them if they're not like super intense, which I'm going to bring up that Kim, when we were teenagers, flipped a Monopoly board because she was so mad at me because I wouldn't sell her my property.
I will not play Monopoly. And I have not played Monopoly in over 20 years because Monopoly fucking ruins friendships.
Who did we have a podcast with and they said they hated Monopoly? Was that on air that they said that? Because I feel like...
I think so. I forget when it was, but...
Who was it? It was like...
Kim and I we were like 16 and 17, and like we were at like a friend's house that was like, I think it was a party, and like, but we were in the bedroom playing Monopoly with two other friends, and she was winning, and I refused to sell her a property, and she flipped the board over.
I always pictured that in your basement, but it was totally at Nipple's house. Well, I don't know her real name, but we called her Nipple.
Yeah, it was a friend who had the nickname Nipple.
Wait,
but yeah, no,
I'm sorry. I need elaboration on the nickname Nipple. You can wait till off mic, but I need to know.
She was like a friend of ours, and like our other friends were. I mean, she became our friend too, but like she was already friends with our friends, and that was the nickname like they had given her for. I forget. There was a reason. I could not tell you.
Why am I imagining a nipple with hair, like blonde hair? Just
just a giant nipple,
like a thumb from Spy Kids, but nipple.
Let me tell you this person's name. Like I don't know her name.
I do remember her name, but I just don't want to say it because I don't want to like.
Well, I don't.
So, but yes. So
even though I think it's a cheater, even though he didn't sell me the property and that was totally legit, and he didn't have to, he also cheated all the time. So,
no wonder you don't like contests.
I got that from my grandma. My grandma used to always cheat when we would play games, though. Like that would be like
really mad when you call him out too, when he's trying to put like 5 Uno cards down instead of just one.
But I've gotten away with it so many times.
I started until I joined your little Death Uno games. Caught on to you.
God.
Anyway, even though I think this is boring, it is sexy. They're like, I don't even really like Penny and Katie, like their vibe. Their vibes just feel too straight. Even though she feels queer coded, their vibes are just so like angsty straight couple that I don't like it, but they're both hot and it is sexy. And like doing a magic while painting, while tied up feels like, and naked, like that all feels very.
And I was like, I wrote down very hot for the Katie and Penny part. And then I wrote Alice and Q doing naked ritual stuff too, more awkwardly, but still hot.
Yes. I wrote down Fantagram because I love Fantagram, and that's the song that's playing, and boobies. This is the first reveal we get that like Alice has giant tits.
Margot says it to her in like the second episode. She's like,
right.
Let's change you out of that outfit to get like show off those assets.
Right. But like we haven't seen any evidence of it. You know, she hasn't been wearing anything except super high collars, which I do love that look on her. She looks great. Too, yeah. So, and you know, as someone who has big boobs and is a fan of big boobs, it was just very exciting for me.
I do appreciate, like, I mean, they're all so hot. It's like, oh, big boobs make it feel like a different body type, right? It's like, oh, okay. Like, I will say I did in the like figures that I make, there are magicians figures. My friend Joe Hill, who does a lot of the faces, did faces of every single one of them. They're fantastic. I've been needing to do bodies, and when I was putting together parts, I was like, oh, this chest is too small to be Alice's. I can't do her dirty like that. Like, I would be upset if I had like a really nice big ass and someone like made a figure of me with a flat fucking ass. I'd be like, excuse me.
Oh,
you got like a Dolly Parton figure. Like, how did we get Alice?
If someone ever made an action figure of me, they would need it to have a nice rack and giant tits.
Right? Like, it's just like, you would want that because you have, it's like, these are my assets and I want them to be represented.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
But I do appreciate, I wish theirs was sexier because I think Quentin is so hot. Which I also, May, before you say anything, every time I think he's hot, I think of you saying that you think he looks like me. And I'm like, am I really that egotistical?
No. I said he's white Ian.
Okay, fair.
I love that you heard that and heard he's hot.
No, I mean, when I think he's hot, then I'm like, oh God. But like, if May thinks he looks like me, then like, I'm like a nightmare.
No, you're hot.
No, Ian, that was me saying you're very hot.
Tariq once commented on one of my photos calling me a stupid slut, and I text them to be like, oh, you know just what to say to me. Thank you so much. Like, I was like very happy that they said that to me.
Ian and I have had so many conversations where we're like, are we the same gay? And it's like, yes, except we're the opposite types of gay.
Right. So Alice and Quentin, I do wish theirs was a little bit sexier, but it tracks for them that they would be awkward about it.
Yeah.
And I do kind of like the reveal that Quentin says he has been institutionalized more than once. And he does get like pretty real with her, which I do feel like we needed. If we're doing this, like clearly there's like some tension for them. We did need to have a scene where they're like not just trying to solve a magic problem or like talk about school. We needed a scene where they were like bonding like on a personal level, I feel like, to make the relationship feel more real.
Yeah, and he's really fucking vulnerable with her, talking about that he's always running and he fucking hates himself. He hates the person that he is, and he's constantly trying to get away from that, even though he's found this literally magical place that has everything he's ever wanted, and he's still trying to run. And like, I don't want to read too hard into that, but like, that feels like being trans. It really does. It feels like until you are comfortable with yourself, it doesn't matter where you are, it's never going to feel right because you don't feel at home in your own fucking body.
That makes sense, honestly.
Yeah, and like, I'm not saying there's a huge trans reading into Quentin. There could be, you know, as we keep watching for these episodes, I might try to look at it through that lens. I don't think that's overt. I don't even think that's necessarily intentional. It just felt very relatable to me for that reason, and also, you know, the mental health struggles I've had my whole life.
I mean, I'm going to compare it to poetry briefly. Like, you can write a poem totally about something else, and that doesn't mean that somebody can't come in and read like one scene of it in a certain way and relate to it in a way that's really powerful and meaningful to them. And that doesn't mean it's not there, you know, like it means if you can read that into it and you've got the text to support it, then like, like you're not reading it wrong.
I mean, that's the beauty of art. Like, and that, like, that is what the show is art. Television is art. So like, I love the way that we can all look at the same scene and interpret it completely different ways that are all completely valid.
Not completely different, but like, you know, similar but different.
Well, and like I mean, like I've said this a lot about Buffy too, but like the show, it brings such good nuance with the characters, with the plot lines, and like, you know, like we were all talking about Penny, how he is an asshole to Quentin. He still doesn't really like Quentin, but we do find out he's not just an asshole, right? There's like more to him. And I do think that is why we're here talking about this show, because it does do a good job doing that. Like at the very least, I don't think anyone could say this show has like everyone's a one-dimensional character. Like that's just incorrect.
Especially
and I
at
think
the end of this episode.
And May, have I told you, I tell this story all the time, so I'm sure, I know Kim has heard it like 10 times, that Ming-Na Wen, actually, when I had her on for Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Roundtable, I like asked her, I was like, do you know like what a gay icon you are? And she was like very sweet about it. I brought up Street Fighter. I was like, you've been a gay icon since Street Fighter. And she was like, oh my God. And I asked her if she knew that, and she was like, I didn't know that I had so many fans in the LGBTQ community until I started doing conventions. And she said how so many trans folks would come up to her at cons to like thank her for Mulan and say how they related. And like, she spoke so, it made me cry when we were recording because she spoke so beautifully about it. And she said it made her cry because she was so happy that this, you know, mythical, like fairy tale kind of story could be related to trans folks, and how she never thought about it that way, but she was so glad, which I mean, like, I feel like none of us are like, that's not surprising that would be a like movie that trans folks would come up to her to say they like felt seen in. But like, you know, it makes sense if she grew up with that as like a folklore kind of tale, like she just wasn't thinking of it in those terms, but she really loved that they could relate to it. And she said like that meant so much to her that like another community could relate to the story that like she grew up with, you know? And like, you know, she wasn't saying like, oh, well, that was our intention. She wasn't trying to pat herself on the back. She was literally saying she didn't think of it that way, but she was just happy that it could be that way. So like, I don't know, that just to your point, Kim, of like, you know, we can all, doesn't mean it's like an incorrect viewing. It's like you can relate to something even if it's not meant to be written that way. Like
it's doing your own reading of material. It's something Joe and Trace on Horror Queers talk about a lot, is that there are infinite ways to read a piece of work. None of them are necessarily right or wrong. There's the artist's intention, and then there's what you get out of it. I would say there are ways to read into things that don't actually exist in those texts. You know, like right-wingers thinking they're the rebellion from Star Wars, not realizing that they're actually the Empire. You know, because that's
the guy that commented on my X-Men post saying, oh liberals always think they're the good guys, but actually they're the bad guys in X-Men. And it's like, that is just an incorrect reading of X-Men.
Right.
Like,
that is a case where you can say, that's projection and denial rather than like an alternate reading.
Right. Yeah. I forget I didn't write it down, but what does Alice share? I don't really remember.
Oh, Alice says, I always hold back. She's talking about that she doesn't even know about the depth of her power because she's always trying to display some semblance of normal and keep herself from being outcast or looked at in any way other than as another student. So yeah, she's arguably the most talented and smart person there, at least magic-wise. She doesn't necessarily have the highest emotional intelligence because
special graces.
Right. Yeah, and again, you could read into that as Alice maybe being coded as having autism a little bit, or she's just weird and different, you know? Like again, there are many ways to read into things. But she just talks about wanting to just kind of like blend in, and she kind of implies she's a little afraid of her own power because she doesn't know how powerful she actually is.
Yeah. And then also Penny reveals that he's falling in love with her, and that kind of is what starts his spell. And then Katie reveals, but I don't think but I know that it works, but I don't think it's true that she's not feeling for him. I don't think that that's true.
I see her rope undo?
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, her rope undoes. Yeah.
Yeah. I do think she's using him.
She says she's a liar. She stole a lot of shit, has just been using him. I don't know. She might use like an adverb in there, but has been like using him.
Yeah, I've
been using you this entire time. And I mean, like for all those things, but also like you do have feelings. Sorry, you do.
Yeah. She doesn't say that she doesn't have feelings. She doesn't say that she doesn't love him. And I think the shame of hiding the fact that she was using him was much deeper, and that was the thing that she needed to reveal.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fair.
Because it doesn't say you need to reveal all of your truths. It says you need to reveal the deepest one.
And it's easy to read that in contrast to what Penny just said as I don't love you, even though she doesn't say that. But like clearly, I feel like she's a good liar. She's good at putting it on. But like, I mean, she definitely enjoys having sex with him, and they like joke around all the time together. Like there's no way that she doesn't, maybe it's not the L word for her yet, but like there's no way she doesn't like enjoy his presence. Like if she really was just using him, like she'd be banging a whole bunch of other people and getting a whole bunch of other shit from a whole bunch of other people too, right?
Like,
Yeah, that's true. You're right, Kim, because that's kind of how I read it, but you're right, that's not actually what she's saying. She's just saying she at first used him to steal stuff.
Yeah, and I think that's the show kind of tricking us a little on purpose.
Yeah.
And then everyone turns into ducks.
Yep. And then something starts crawling inside of Penny, and
they're geese. Oh,
yes.
Well, now the joke I wrote down doesn't work. I wrote down what the duck.
And I wrote down an emoji of me crying, because this is another point that I cried, even though Ian hates contests and is going to laugh at me.
I would never laugh at you, Kimberly Ann, but I did not. I was just like, oh, right. I forgot the next episode is this one.
Wait, in the King of Crying, you didn't cry during this?
He hates contests so much.
Oh my god.
It's only like the part where Quentin cheated.
To be fair, Kim does cry more than I do.
I do.
Oh my god. Okay, Kim, you and I might be in competition.
Both TV commercials and movie previews. And when people get engaged.
Yep.
Even though I don't really have any stake, even if it's people I don't know. Yeah.
Ian, I'm on your level. I don't cry that often.
But no. Don't mistake that for Ian doesn't cry that often. Because Ian does. No. It's just Kim cries more.
It's just always funny when you have people on Slayer Fest who are not like super emotionally reactive, and they're like, Ian, you cried at that scene? And I'm just sitting there like, yeah, me too, Ian.
I feel like Ryan, she kept making jokes when she started hormone therapy, that she was like, are you sure you're not going through hormone therapy, Ian? You're crying more than I am.
I remember the first time she made that joke on an episode. I was in the shower and I lost my shit. I was laughing so hard.
So yeah, they fly away, and that is the end of the episode.
It's beautiful.
It is pretty. That's the thing I do love about the show. I do think it's wild what they did on a sci-fi show budget, but I think the cinematography is always on point. Like they like use minimal effects so that it's not like, I don't know, like when it's magic swirling around, it's like, okay, that's magic swirling around. It's fine, but it doesn't look like stupid or like distracting or like, I don't know. And I feel like they do a good job of like scaling down the colors, so it's not too much.
And even the goose that Quentin turns into looks pretty good for fucking CGI goose.
Yeah.
Especially for like 2018. Like,
and on a sci-fi show budget. Like,
I mean, like, this doesn't feel like a sci-fi show at all. Like, at all. Like,
nope.
It feels like an HBO show.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
We'd have more dicks though if it were an HBO show.
Yeah, that's true.
I wouldn't be upset about it.
Or as Jen on my podcast calls them, delightful cinematic dongs.
So, favorite outfit, May?
So, originally it was going to be Marina's blue top with the leather harness over it, but then later you see her in that gray and black long dress with the harness over it, and it's definitely that for me, especially paired with that like anger on her face. It's just, I said this before, I want Marina to dom me so bad, like so bad. But also shout out to Alice's fox dress, because it's really cute, and if I saw that on Unique Vintage, which is I'm pretty sure where it's from, I would have bought it.
Tariq, what's your favorite outfit?
I didn't know we were supposed to be looking at outfits. I didn't even know we were supposed to be writing things down. I was like, I don't have anything written down. I kept trying to be like, I wrote down. I didn't write down shit.
Season 1, episode 6, really fast magicians, and I'll talk about mine, and then you can just.
Oh, I already, but I have an answer. It's Penny's birthday suit.
Oh,
fair.
It's
fair.
fair.
Good choice.
Kim, I know we have the same one.
Mine's Margot's outfit when she's in, but also like that whole, again, the indoors in the outdoors aesthetic, like paired with the outfit. Oh, that's like perfect. It's like my dream aesthetic.
It really is like, yeah, like I know I can like pick out perfectly what Kim and I very much, I mean, we've known each other for 26 years now, 27. We like very much know what the other one would like. And I was like, as soon as I saw Margot and I was like, wow, she looks gorgeous. Kim is going to love this outfit. This will be her favorite outfit of the episode. But same, that is also my favorite look. Her makeup's so on point. And Kim, you mentioned specifically the like fake fur, or maybe, but I'm sure it's fake, the like fur, like kind of collar thing, and I really think that like for me drives it home. Like it just is like a perfect addition to that. Favorite scene, Kim?
The one that you probably hate, when they're all like in the woods and like figuring stuff out, through the part at the jokes about the horse at the end, like just all of them together from the moment they've all kind of brought their respective animals that they were supposed to tame / catch through like when like they kind of get like the disappearing of the woods, and they're on the Brakebills. Ron and Elliot and Margot are just cracking up at their hilarious jokes. Love it. It's amazing. It's perfect.
May.
That was going to be my answer too, so I'll go with
that. Could be your answer.
Well,
that's okay.
No, I'm going to go with my second choice, which is when Quentin and Margot are talking about Fillory up in the bedroom, and she's giving him that little pep talk. And I mean, yeah, she roofies him, but they have some genuinely sweet words with each other before that.
Yeah. Tariq? I had you go last, so to give you more time to hint.
I was thinking. No, I think like my favorite scene on this episode had to be pausing. I'm so sorry. I'm sorry. I was not prepared. Like legitimately, I actually think the scene where they cheated and like the guy just goes away, because like I really that brought together Quentin and Penny for the first time in a way that like really like they were such opposing forces, and that was really the beginning. And like that's like you continue to see the stakes of the show, like of the school specifically. I don't know why I have this pen in my hand. I was gonna write something down because I felt like I had to, and I've been playing with this.
It like feels like you're driving a point home because you're holding the pen. It's like, they're like, really, they know what they're talking about because they got a pen in their hand. My favorite scene is kind of a bleak one. It's Katie's mom bleeding out. Only not because I enjoy it, but I like the horror movie aspect of it. I like that we're leaning into so much horror. It's the same reason I love in the first episode the scene with the beast, just because it's like ups the stakes and shows you how fucking brutal it'll be. And this is kind of like the next big like horror-y like influenced moment we get in the show after that. And I like when a show can lean into horror without actually being full horror. Like I like when it can use the elements
and integrate
I really think,
them effectively without it feeling disjointed.
Yes, and I think it like kind of shows you. Again, like I said this earlier, it shows you how like terrible Marina is, right? Like she just seems kind of mean and sassy before this, and then it's like, ooh, she will explode you into blood if you cross her.
You're not just seeing how mean she is, you're also seeing another really fucked up side of magic. You know, like magic can be used for good. We know that magic has some destructive force. We know there are negative elements to it. But we haven't seen it hurt and kill someone in quite this way up until this point.
Yeah.
Like, is Hannah the first person on the show we actually see die? Because, like,
No. The professor in the first episode.
Right, but we don't see him die. He's already dead when they get there.
No. The, at the end of the episode, the beast, like, kills their professor. Like, he goes, like...
Yeah, okay. Sorry. Forgot about that.
But this is like the first like brutal. I mean, the Dean's not death is very brutal, but he doesn't die. But this is the first like brutal death.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what grade do we give this episode? You're all not going to like my grade. May.
Wait, no, I want to hear your grade first.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
let's do it. Maybe our grades and our very good convincing arguments about why we gave them their grade will talk him up a little.
Okay.
Yeah.
So to me, because of the back and forth between Julia and the Brakebills stuff, the episode feels a little bit unfocused. It doesn't have that same nice balance that I feel like episodes 1, 2, 3, and 5 do. However, it's still very good. The Julia stuff is really depressing and upsetting. I feel like the hazing trials stuff is fun enough to balance that out, though. And there's some really great revelatory moments, not just at the end during the secrets magic, but throughout the episode. We're finding out so much stuff without getting giant exposition dumps, and that it's hard to pull that off sometimes, especially in serialized television. And I feel like they do it really well here. So for me, this episode is a solid B. It's not amazing, but it's certainly not bad.
Professor Kimberly Ann?
A. 10 out of 10. No notes. Perfect.
Oh, shit.
I don't give A pluses because college professors don't give A pluses. I was told once by a college professor. But yeah, like, unless you give too much extra credit by accident, then yeah, but A.
Tariq, what grade do you give this episode?
I say B-. I think it's told really well. The writing is really, really good. The writing, the one-liners, the jokes, and the references, all like really, really good. But for me, what really dragged it down is just like you can tell that it's kind of important. But honestly, if you took this episode out, other than them turning into geese and maybe Katie's mom dying, like it'd be like you could take it or leave it for me. Like,
see, that's why I don't like a contest, because you can always take it or leave it. It doesn't matter.
So yeah, I'd say B-.
I say C. I give it a flat C. It's not an F. It's still a C. That's still an okay grade. It's still passing. And like, yeah, Tariq, you just kind of like put the like exactly why I don't, because you couldn't, like, again with like Goblet of Fire, if you took out the whole competition and just had the beginning Dementors attack and the end of like Voldemort killing what's his face, Edward Cullen, like that's all you need. You don't need the contest. So like that's what bothers me about like stuff like this in supernatural things. It's like, I don't know, like if it was, I think it would be different for me because this is an episode of TV and it's not a 700-page book. If it had been like they are all having fun and I get to watch them having fun, I think I would have, then it's like, okay, well, it's a funny episode. They're all like getting to be friends. And this is not that. It is a very intense competition where like some of them are on the verge of crying. Some of them are freaking out. And I'm like, we're being too serious for a stupid contest.
I mean, I felt that way about welters. Like I could care less about welters. I was like, is this supposed to be like Quidditch? Wait, no. Also, I don't care. But not about this episode.
But see, and that's like, but the difference in that is that is like a 5-minute scene.
Yeah, but that game was stupid and all of these contests were cool.
Agreed.
I thought the Welters was way cooler and also just shorter, so then therefore better.
I'm on Anne's side.
Hey, you know what, y'all? It's okay to be wrong.
How can you like action scenes and not like contests? Tara just doesn't like anything. Don't get on my bad side.
Tariq's just like, get Penny naked, give me that.
I mean,
it was like, I don't blame you.
Can't even pull it up to a B because we get Penny naked.
Okay, you know what? We'll get. I'll do that. B.
Don't succumb to her peer pressure.
To a B. Yeah. No, he's worth it. He's worth the extra upgrade, you know? Yeah. It's just the world building didn't matter to enough in this episode for me to really care about it.
But okay. We're done discussing it. So I forgot to do this at the top. I keep telling myself I remember to do this at the top, but I keep forgetting. Thank you all for listening. If you like SlayerFest98, you can find us on all social media platforms at SlayerFestX98. You can find us on all podcasting platforms like Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube. You should subscribe to us and give us a good rating if you like us, and don't give us a rating if you don't like us. And you can subscribe to our Patreon, where I am going through Buffy Season 3 for every episode's 25th anniversary. I've got some really great guests lined up for some upcoming episodes. I was like, wait, this is coming out after. Well, but it'll start coming out when we might be done. If we're done, I'm sorry, we're done. But you can listen to all of the season 3 coverage. We also have Harley Quinn seasons 1, 2, and 3 up there. We have Firefly and a bunch of other stuff. And any and all support is much appreciated. You can find me on all social media platforms at Ian X Carlos. Kim, where can everyone find you?
I'm at Kim Ann Jo South. And if you're interested in my poetry life, you can go to KimberlyAnnSouthwick.com.
And you can buy her newest book.
I have a poetry Orchid Alpha. It's linked on my website, but you can also go to Trembling Pillow Press and get it there.
I was very excited that someone told me they bought your poetry book from listening to SlayerFest. I was like, yes.
I hope you love it.
May, where can everyone find you and your podcast?
You can find me on Letterboxd, Twitter, and Instagram at EversonPoe. That's EversonPoe. You can find my music on Bandcamp and streaming services by searching Everson Poe, 2 words. And you can hear me on one of those Buffy Season 3 25th anniversary episodes. And also on my own podcast, The Lady Killers. We are weekly on the Bloody Disgusting Podcast Network. You can find us on any podcast platform. If you want to follow us on Twitter, it's at The Lady K Pod, and on Instagram at The Lady Killers Pod.
And Tariq, where can everyone find you and your stuff?
Yeah, Tariq, TARIQ _ Raouf, RAOUF, and I'm on Instagram and Twitter. I'm not gonna call it X. Most of the time. And yeah.
Cool. All right, everyone. Well, thank you for listening, and we will see you next time. Bye.
Bye.